Welcome, everybody. You're in for a real treat. This panel is there's some real experts here. I'm kind of fanboying out because we've got some really knowledgeable people, and I love this space. I see the potential for transforming humanity, and I kind of worked a little bit with that in Venezuela. So this is very exciting for me. Now, let me go ahead and bring up a new friend of mine. First off is Eloisa Cadenas. She's a doctoral candidate from the Universidad Nacional Autónoma de Mexico, UNAM, and she's specializing in cryptocurrency evaluation and volatility research. She's also the founder and CEO of Crypto FinTech. Come on up. Our next panelist is Zhen Cao, and she's a partner with venture capital team at JD Capital, and she's a partner at the J Lab. JD is a leading Chinese private equity firm with 9 billion assets under management, and it's the only Chinese PE company that's publicly traded at the moment. And Mr. Robin O'Connell, he is the Chief Revenue Officer at Uphold. Uphold is one of the most trusted and older crypto exchanges. It's both a wonderful place in my heart. It's the second place that I purchased cryptocurrency back in 2014. So welcome, Robin. And Mr. John Nham, the co-founder and managing partner at Strong Ventures, a seed fund that finances, supports, and mentors Korean and other global companies. That's good. Oh, well, everybody had a good lunch. I'm going to start off with Eloisa. Eloisa, I want to talk a little bit about regulation. It's such an important part of the current environment. And in 2014, Mexico was one of the first folks that came out and said, provided some regulation in the crypto fintech space. Can you tell us a little bit about what that law did?
Yes. Oh, I'm so very nervous. The fintech law was the fintech law that have a more specific the virtual assets, the cryptocurrencies. The name of cryptocurrencies, the legal name is virtual assets. And the bank, the Central Bank of Mexico, we very interested. The people don't to do exchange the Mexican peso to Bitcoin or other cryptocurrency, and Bitcoin to Mexican peso. The authorities don't want to do that.
So they really set out a lot of, they provided guidance on what activities were acceptable and what weren't. And so I know we talked a little bit earlier that the government regulated or put this power to regulate the cryptocurrencies and fintech with the Banco de México.
Yes.
So this is kind of like our Federal Reserve Bank. And they considered, they kind of put labels called virtual assets. So if you're, is that right?
Yeah, the Banxico, or the Central Bank of Mexico, determine the virtual asset, which with the institution, financial institution, can operate. It's very difficult because we don't have the education, we don't have the most professionalized, and we cannot convertibility to Bitcoin Mexican peso. So the government the government can, they want to regulate it, but they don't criteria. They don't have the criteria.
They didn't offer a lot of concrete
Yeah.
criteria about what would become a virtual asset and what would. So kind of what is the good guy and what is the bad guy, and they didn't provide a lot of guidance. And another point to consider here, and this is pretty big, is that they did come out and say that we don't want a lot of crypto to fiat transactions going on, which is pretty big. If you can imagine our space saying you can't buy crypto with US dollars. Is that correct?
Yeah, the argument is the volatility, asymmetric information, money laundering, for example, and it's very ridiculous because the money laundering is the fiat, it's with the fiat. So I don't know. I think maybe the authorities don't want more problems.
Well, that's interesting. Zhen, we've kind of been hearing a lot from China too in regards to regulation. Can you kind of bring us up to speed on what the Chinese government is wanting and what's acceptable for their citizens?
Right, so as we all know, 2017 September, that's where they shut down the whole activity, because before that there's a lot of ICO activity, and then there's been very silence on the regulation side for 2 years until recently, October 2019, that there's no specific regulation about whether it's whether like token is a security or not, like the conversation as here, but it's more about, in China specifically, one concept is we are excited about blockchain, but not very advocating the coin. So yeah, because from the financial perspective, we want to protect the retail investors still, and then from the blockchain perspective, we know the smart city, IoT, supply chain management, supply chain finance, and those are use cases that we've already seen that the government and the bank started to use it, no matter it's a trial or it's actually in the real use cases now. So, and as we all know, like previously, there is a very specific regulation about mining, but then now it's getting loosened. There's like a policy stating those are the illegal activities, and then they actually deducted mining from that policy. So, and then everyone said, oh, this is a really positive signal, but then, yeah, there's reality is most of the mining operation, they will say, oh, we're like data center, and then you still need to have like good government relationship in order to keep that operation running, versus like if you don't have the, so there's a lot of, still a lot of, it's still in the, now like very implicit, it's, yeah.
It seems it's kind of clear to me that the government of China doesn't want to kill this industry, that they are trying to create some order from that. But you can see, I mean, I've heard rumors that the authorities are creating their own digital asset for the yuan. Is that
right? So the whole name called DCEP, Digital Currency Electric Payment. So it functions as a wallet in each individual's phone, and you don't need internet access for it, and you actually hold your own private key, and you are able to transact smaller amount without KYC and AML. But then if it's a larger amount, it requires KYC and AML. And then it's packed into RMB. The primary use case and primary intention is, for sure, there's the one belt one road, like the international trade, and then like the government will not like say that, but everyone want to be the settlement layer to the world, like US dollar, RMB, or Libra coin. So those are all the intentions. But then, in a way, it's actually, as we all know, like Alipay and WeChat Pay already already have their like very large presence in China, and then now we don't necessarily see it as a competing, but it's basically a substitute of the paper money. It's the old function that you can think of it as a substitute of paper money as a digitalized. So they want to decrease
And this is no, I mean, for our friends in the audience, this is no small thing. In China, as opposed to here, you mentioned the applications that people use to pay for everyday items is, everybody uses it. It's pretty prevalent that people using their mobile devices to pay for things. So the transition to a digital national currency, it can't be understated. John, what are you seeing in Korea in terms of what's the, just backing up for folks that may not know, in 2017, you could not do an ICO without having some relationship with Korea. It was a huge, they were very adoptive of the technology. What do you see going on the ground now?
Yeah, just to give a little bit of contextual background around the Korean market. In a way, Korea pioneered and espoused the concept of virtual currency before these platforms were moved to the blockchain. And it came in the form of virtual tokens of coins for the gaming companies. So Nexon, which is the largest gaming company in Korea, currently valued at around $12 billion. They came up with a currency, the Nexon coin, with which you could pay for the different games like Maple Story and Dungeon Fighter and so on, which are very famous in China and Maple Story globally. And so in Korea, the concept of virtual currency and then cryptocurrency, it itself is not a very foreign one. And in fact, the regulation in Korea is not around the legitimacy of these coins. And it's not around how do we avoid AML, but it's more on how do we avoid having the retail investor, in Korean expression is called the ants, not being cheated and in this system because of all these pump and dumpers and market makers. So one of the ironies of blockchain is that it's supposed to be a transparent, accountable technology enabling the masses, but the mechanism of fundraising behind blockchain and cryptocurrencies has been one of the most darkest and sort of veiled ways of fundraising, where different people at the same time were getting different sort of deals on the tokens, and that's not blockchain. That's favoritism and
Ponzi.
Yeah. So, but anyways, I veer. So, but yeah, the Korean people, because they've been used to gaming and Koreans love gambling so much that it's banned in Korea. So if you're a Korean citizen and actually if you get caught gambling in Vegas, you're actually could be punished under the Korean government's regulation. So because of this love of gambling and gaming and speculation, all the regulation in Korea revolves around protecting that end consumer that's participating in the markets, of whether it be cryptocurrencies, stocks, and so on. But yes, yet again, because the Korean people are so into gaming and gambling, cryptocurrency was so popular from 2016, 2017, and at the height of Bitcoin 20,000, The statistic was Korea was the #2 trading nation of Bitcoin and #1 in Ethereum. And then Korea at that time had about 4 or 5 of the top exchanges. The top 20 exchanges were in Korea, again, because of all this energy behind speculative trading and gaming. And unfortunately, that's the dark side of blockchain, that it's created this market that is artificially built, which is not fully accountable according to the blockchain. And so it's the irony, yeah.
That is interesting, and you bring up some of the negative actors. One of the definitely not negative actors, one of the positive folks is Robin's company, Uphold, and a really respected company that I just found out is doing some work in Latin America. Can you tell us what's your project down there?
Sure, thank you. And go Gauchos? No. So, for those of you who don't know, Uphold is a multi-currency, multi-asset digital wallet and also a platform. Anyone can go there, sign up, and we have about 1.5 million users today that use us, a variety of consumers and small businesses all over the world. So we have users in 180 countries. We have about 500,000 of the 1.5 million that are in Latin America. And what's cool about it is that, we're not a great system if you're a speculator, right? Like you would go to an exchange if you're a speculator and have all sorts of, trading like type, features that you would expect to see. We're really more of a platform that just makes a really simple trade in and out of cryptocurrency and any cryptocurrency, but also what's really important is cryptocurrency and fiat. So we're used for kind of more, real life situations. Like we have a ton of companies in America or Europe that, are just looking to pay let's say their freelancers or their employees. And so that's a primary flow of funds for us, is a company in the United States loading money from their bank account into our system, and then paying out people in Latin America who actually want to get paid in Bitcoin or Dash, is big in Venezuela, as an example. And I think what's cool about that is the industry, as far as I'm concerned, will die if all it is the speculative piece. If there's not if it doesn't live up to its promise of actually replacing current flows of funds, then forget about it, right? This is my opinion, but and so what's cool about Latin America is there is a strong need for it. Why is there a strong need for it? Because it's better money, right? If you live in Venezuela, and I just came back from Argentina, I was in Argentina last 10 days, and they have a new government coming in, and basically the word on the street is we're hosed. Nobody trusts the banks. The money gets completely devalued, so you're constantly worried about taking your funds and spending it right away so it doesn't devalue. It's trapped. So anyways, we're really excited about Latin America and what we're seeing down there, and really just providing a mechanism for better money down in places like Argentina.
So Robin, I'm interested, what kind of feedback are you getting from the governments? Are they working with you, or are they kind of standoffish?
Well, one is a funny story, and actually we have some story on Mexico too. So we've done actually different things. We're fully regulated, we're regulated in the United States, FinCEN, we have money transfer licenses. I mean, really, one of the hardest places in the world to do money is the United States. So we're regulated in the United States, we're regulated in Europe, we're regulated in Mexico, believe it or not. And what we were talking about earlier was that change. We had to go in and completely scrap the path that we were taking and get a new license as a part of what's happening here. But there's a couple ways to do it, right? One is, and PayPal's done this, not from crypto, they haven't touched crypto, but from a global money movement situation. You can go into a country, you basically, in some places, you have to set up an entity, you have to hire employees, you have to get licensed, and the licenses differ, based on where you are. You have to then, have a local bank account where you're storing local funds. It's pretty tough. We've taken that route, obviously, in the United States, in Europe, actually in Mexico. In other countries, though, it's really it's almost like the Uber model, right? Like you're coming in and you're disrupting how money has currently been handled in those situations. And so, yes, I think every single government, including Venezuela, would love us to come in and, move all of our money into Venezuela and get it trapped there and have it devalued and so forth, but we're not doing that, right? Yet we still have customers in Venezuela. And the funny thing is, in Venezuela, they literally copied, we're really popular in Venezuela, they copied our UX. They have their own currency called Petro, and they actually have a Twitter account, like a real Twitter account for their government, and they started like promoting, how you could buy Petro as easily as you can, buy Bitcoin on Uphold. So they stole our UX. And what do? You can't,
Quite a compliment.
Thank you for copying us. But anyway, so I think that's kind of the message is, in certain, it's a country by country situation, and you kind of evaluate it and you determine what's the best path of entering the market.
So anyone on the panel, if something excites you, please jump on that. But Robin, what I'm hearing is that you're kind of betting on blockchain as better money.
Yes.
Zhen, what are you seeing as use cases? Because I'm hearing a different angle in China. What are kind of the use cases that are popping up there?
Right, so I actually spent a lot of time in gaming. That's previously I'm a virtual reality and AR investor. We supported a bunch of game content studios, which is very rare for investment for VC. And why is that? Because a lot of them have the marketplace model, or like any business model is more scalable, or virtual concert, stuff like that. And one of the biggest problem in the gaming industry in general is the distributor and the publisher are actually taking a lot of revenue from the game developers. So if the game developer don't have enough access to capital, access to talent, or access to distribution power, and they will not able to pay for their distribution money. So in a way, so the tokenization, like the network token, in a way, are user acquisition mechanism that they can say, if the game content is good enough, and they can reward the economy participants that, hey, like if you contribute city building in Minecraft-ish project, and then you're able to earn a currency, and if your skin that designed the character skin is very popular, and you can earn more money. So in that way, or some reward token that in the open world economy that like you are able to incentive the creators. So in that way, it's basically the money that you give it to the distributors, and now you give that money back to the users and the developers. So there's a way to reorganize the traditional gaming publishing mechanism, but also it is a self-publishing mechanism. So we've seen some companies, not only in China, some companies like Forte, which I really like, they come from Japan, which is one of the largest mobile game publisher. And then they're using this similar model. They have network token. They're working with a lot of existing games, and then either they invest in the games or they help them publishing, and those games will issue their network token, or even if it's a fungible token. If they don't have fungible token, they will have non-fungible token. So most of the use cases I've seen right now in gaming space, non-fungible token is a fundraising mechanism that it's basically pre-sell the game. We've seen a lot in Kickstarter, in like Indiegogo, that game crowdfunding, and then those basically without giving any like true ownership of the asset. But then now the non-fungible token sales are actually, well, it's a security in a way because it's actually contributing to the development of the company. They hire people out of their money, but that's a way for independent game developer to do fundraising because you give the access to capital in this way. So I spend a lot of time in that, and yeah, and you have lots of stuff.
I agree overall that gaming, actually even before blockchain, has been and is going to be one of the main use cases of cryptocurrency / blockchain. Because in today's non-blockchain gaming world, a developer at one of these gaming companies, what shall we talk, Apex Legend or League of Legends, a developer can actually go into the database, go into a user's account, change the 0 and put $10,000, and nobody can say anything, and it can go undetected because it's not based on blockchain, it's just in an internal database. So the first legitimate use case of blockchain, it would be to convert those gaming economies to a blockchain that is immutable, and therefore you cannot change no developer insider at that gaming company can go in and change the value of your account just arbitrarily. So that's the main, I think, best use case of blockchain in the very near future, and therefore I do believe that gaming is definitely one area where blockchain can bring huge benefits. And I can give a little more practical background on this, but I'm a bit of a jaded now. I mentioned outside crypto out.
Talk to us about that.
Yeah, investor, and you mentioned some of the gaming tokens. I know the Kabam guys, and I've participated in fundraisings for gaming tokens, Ethereum and a few others. And what I don't like is that the way the fundraisings are carried out for these gaming tokens or gaming economies is very arbitrary. It's not transparent. So if you're a top brand investor, you get a certain good deal. And then how the policies are made around who wins what tokens. If you do this, if you build this, if you refer people, those can change according to the governance of that blockchain, right? And so the fact that yes, the blockchain itself is supposed to be this transparent technology that brings equality and fairness for everyone, but the way we get to building that blockchain and fundraising for it is not transparent, is not fair, and the last investor, once the token lists in an exchange, is the one that gets screwed. So that's what I'm trying to reconcile how to do this. Not just the blockchain itself should be the fair and an open ledger, but even the fundraising that happens behind the scenes for this blockchain to eventually happen should also be fair and equal for everyone.
Do you think that, so really what I'm hearing is that it's kind of ironic that you truly do have in blockchain something that's observable. It's a ledger that's, in some cases, a public ledger, but the funding mechanism to create these projects is itself not very transparent.
Extremely not transparent. Yeah.
Do you have any ideas about how to make that better?
So there is one blockchain project that I've been involved in, and this is not also the perfect one. It's called Handshake, and what they're trying to do is put the domain name registration process and the whole infrastructure behind domain name registration, DNS, on the blockchain. Because right now, a group of 10 old dudes in LA form a commission or whatever you want to call it, called ICANN, ICANN, and they're the ones who control, in a centralized manner, how domain names are registered all around the world. So, so I think it's a great project to be able to put this on the blockchain. And what I liked about Handshake was that instead of fundraising to create this blockchain, like raising tens of millions to create this blockchain, they did not fundraise for the sake of creating the blockchain, because the developers behind it, a guy called Joseph Poon, who's the guy who co-created the Lightning Network, which is a scalability network for Bitcoin, and also Plasma, which is a scalability solution for Ethereum. So Joseph Poon and then two Andrew Lees, who are affiliated with our investment firm, they built the Handshake blockchain from scratch and launched it to production and put it on mainnet, even without fundraising. So so I think if we can find, and then they did it also as a foundation. So no money was raised to sort of build this. They built it as a sort of open developers network platform, and they collaborated, and they launched it without ever fundraising a dime for making this. And the only fundraising that they did, and even now I question whether this is necessary, was to put an initial price on the token. Yeah, just to have a valuation validated by venture capitalists like Andreessen Horowitz, Tim Draper, and so on. And so that's, I think, a model in the right direction. But yeah, raising, I don't know, hundreds of millions of dollars, and EOS is probably the worst example. Raising, tens, hundreds, in some cases billions of dollars to build a blockchain that in many cases doesn't even work is just a sham, and it's like such an oxymoron of the transparency that blockchain is supposed to bring.
Well, that's a great point. Robin, to that point, what does Uphold do? What's the process for getting listed on Uphold? What is your process for reviewing, making sure you're weeding out the bad actors?
Yeah, so a couple things I'd say on that. So one, we have a listing committee, and then we have to go through, there's a lot of regulatory side to it, right? Like, we can't hold security tokens on ours, so there's a legal review. But really what we're doing is, again, because we're not, the place to go necessarily, if you're a trader, we're not just looking at the top ones on CoinMarketCap. We're working with projects that we think are, really providing real life use cases. Great example of that is Brave. If you haven't heard of Brave, Brave is, as far as I'm concerned, the leaps and bounds ahead of any other project in terms of mass adoption. They have 50 million downloads. It's a privacy browser started by a guy named Brendan Eich, who invented JavaScript, comes from the industry. He was the CEO of Mozilla, so he's built out mass adoption of a browser. And basically what it does is Why would I get it? Because it makes my internet run faster. Why? Because it's blocking all the ad junk. And he's sort of stripping down the way that advertising works on the internet, and basically provides a better experience where it runs faster, your personal data isn't being shared and taken from you. And if you do decide to view the ads, well, then you get rewarded. I was thinking about that when you were talking about the gaming and getting the providers and using cryptocurrency as an incentive to get people to develop content. So they're getting rewarded. The websites are getting rewarded, and we met these guys, I don't know, 2+ years ago, and it was actually, we met them before they did their IEO, but they were really one of the first to do an IEO.
For the audience, IEO is the initial exchange offering.
Yeah, and it's real business, right? Like, it's so true. There's so many of these projects that are not real businesses. They're hype, and so you ask about what do we determine? I say number one is it just hype? Is it real? Does it help us to list something that's popular on CoinMarketCap? Who cares, right? Is it something that's going to be here in 2-3 years? We make our money on the actual exchange and the flow. So as there's more people signing up for the Brave browser, so we're the back-end system and the conversion from this basic attention token into dollars, euros, whatever. Because when you get up to 50 million people, guess what? People don't care about the basic attention token. They want their money, right? And so anyway, that's it. The key driver is it a real project or not?
Please, yeah.
So I do believe that one of the greatest roles in this blockchain platforms and economy are the exchanges. And in a way, the reason why the stock market, for example, is in the United States especially so efficient is because the exchanges, even though they're sort of driven by regulation, they are in a way the filterers of bad stocks, right? They're the ones that decide, okay, this stock is not worthy to be listed here, this stock is, and I do believe that exchange platforms play a crucial role in the sort of progression of blockchain and proper progression of blockchain and cryptocurrencies, because they have to play a role of filtering the junk and making sure that the tokens that get listed are the ones that are the legitimate ones and the ones that are going to benefit humanity and just this technology overall. So in our case, our first involvement with blockchain was with the first. We invested in the first Bitcoin exchange in Korea in 2013, which was then followed by Tim Drake, SoftBank, Pantera, and so on. And then, I can bring it full circle to this gaming, in that the founder of Nexon, which is the first virtual currency maker with the Nexon coin, is the one that acquired our exchange in 2017. And became sort of it was actually the biggest liquidation event or exit in crypto in 2017, although it's not much published, but that's how my son actually, who goes here, is, his tuition is paid with that, with crypto in a way. But, when we first talked to Jay about Corbett, the Bitcoin exchange, what we told him was, Jay, this is the founder of Nexon, Jay, you invented virtual currency. How can you not be an absolute believer in Bitcoin? So it took us a while to convince him, and eventually he came around, and he espoused the vision. And the reason why he bought this exchange is to get the knowledge and sort of the expertise to move his gaming empire into a more transparent blockchain. And then he went on to buy Bitstamp as well. So I do believe that exchanges will play a pivotal role, at least for the next 5 to 10 years, in bringing down, getting rid of all this misinformation that creates all this unfairness in the market. And which is why we continue investing in exchanges in Korea. I personally invested in a big exchange in Spain as well. And so I'm all for exchanges and in terms of implementing blockchain. Yes, I think gaming and related virtual worlds will be the first place for blockchain to have mass adoption.
Since this panel is on blockchain abroad, Jen, what are some surprising developments in China that we may not know about here?
Right, so the biggest use case we've seen right now is when it comes to supply chain finance, that the upper level, the lenders, they normally can get better credit because they more close to the bank. But then the lower level of the supply set, that smaller factories, that they normally harder to get a credit. But then they actually are in the same supply finance chain. And then it's basically like by onboarding a lot of data on the public ledger or private ledger, that's enabling the expansion of the credit from top to the bottom. So that when it comes to lending or any financial products, that is actually more efficient.
So you're seeing a lot of what's classified as decentralized finance in China, DeFi, or is it not necessarily decentralized?
Right, so DeFi, no matter where, mostly is still reorganizing of the crypto internal money flow. So we don't really see that many people who actually need. Well, in Southeast Asia, it makes sense because some of the interest rate is 50%, and if you have a global liquidity, that you are able to provide a 10% interest rate, and you actually are providing value. So, but in China, we haven't seen, because I think mostly traditional, previously the P2P lending has a lot of issue in China, especially, but that could be a solution because you actually tie the participants together and by using smart contract, but we haven't seen any use case. But the P2P lending, most of the problem is they cannot make up the lending, or that the people who there's multi-layer of P2P lendings in China that and then the one interesting part is about, and then it depends on who are the one who have shorter lending term, so that you are able to recoup your money faster, and then the people on the top, they'll have quicker recouping. So that's a thing that detrusts a lot of people, but that will be a way that blockchain coming in, but we haven't seen any, but that's an opportunity.
Robin, in Latin America, what countries are you interested in moving into, and what's the criteria for, what's your decision process on that?
So we're already in, as I mentioned, we have about 500,000 users in Latin America, and one of the things that we're doing within the next couple months is we partnered with an exchange in Latin America who is fully regulated and kind of different from how we do things in Mexico, US, and Europe. We've come up with a system basically where we're going to be able to connect to the local banking systems in most of the southern cone. So Peru, Chile, actually all the way up to Colombia, and then we have a separate partnership agreement in Brazil will be pretty much in every country through bank connectivity in Latin America, except Venezuela, even though we love Venezuela and we'll continue to support it. How do people get money in and out? Well, so a lot of people will receive crypto into their Uphold account and then move their, let's say, Bitcoin from Uphold to a local exchange in Venezuela, as an example, which is connected to the banking system.
Yeah, also in China side, we've seen some lottery posts. They will use that as a transparency tool, and then or the receipt, because either like from the anti-corruption perspective and from the company expense perspective, and then the receipt is a like traceability part coming into. So.
I know we had, any kind of last word, then we got the 5-minute warning. I don't know if we're going to take questions, but any parting thoughts from your different regions or your companies that you want to share with us?
No, I learned a lot. Thank you. No, there's definitely some interesting stuff that I heard from the other panelists. So it was a treat to be here. Thank you.
Great. Cameron, are we going to take questions?
Yeah, does anyone have any questions? So we're world-class entrepreneurs that work across the world in the space. They have a lot of insights. So if you have any questions regarding any of their regions, I highly recommend them.
Hi there, thanks for your time, everybody. My question is about how each of you would explain to somebody who has very little knowledge of blockchain what a world with using just 100% of transactions through blockchain would look like.
Sure, I'll take that. So I envision a world where people can, store the value, the money that they've earned instantaneously, move it across the globe, just like we send an email, and have all of the benefits that we take for granted in the United States can now be accessible through really this kind of new money system that we've put forward. So as an example, we're building out, so in Latin America, we're offering a debit card, we're offering interest through a partnership where you get as much as 10%, forget about it, you can't even get 10% in the United States. You can borrow, you can do all of these things that, it's harder to explain to somebody in the US, frankly, because they're like, well, I got Venmo and whatever, I trust my bank. But when you talk globally, and that's why I'm glad I'm on this panel, it's a totally different deal. People do not trust their banks, they're getting screwed, and these are people just trying to earn a living, right? So that's what I think is important about it.
I think a pretty powerful statement is if someone remembers the private key in your brain and no one can take it out of you if you go across the country. And that's related to sovereign identity and sovereign wealth, which only blockchain can provide us right now.
I would quickly explain it in and the truth is we cannot fully see and project how these technologies will evolve and develop, but the way I see it is programmable money. So in a way, how tuition is paid here can all be automated and so that it's tied to your paycheck and your parents' paycheck and so on. So, right now to make a payment for tuition here, you have to check your balance in Bank of America, Wells Fargo, your brokerage accounts, and then, somebody has to write a check here and there. It's all a mixture of paperwork and online checking, but in the future, all of this will be able to be programmed, and you can automate all the different payments, and even, if I make an investment and I collect later, all the distribution according to how much I own of this company will be automatically put into me without me having to check how much I own of this company and how many shares and so on. Everything is automatically distributed into my account.
Alrighty, well that is all the time we have today, so if you guys can put your hands together for the panelists.